Hello. It's Hi from the side of the sewing machine. Welcome to the Fun Friday event on Craft Around the Clock, where we are doing Power Tools Day, and I'm going to be using my sewing machine for my power tool. So welcome, come on in, say hi. If you happen to be watching this on replay, you can hashtag replay in the comments. Hello, Alma. How are you today? Welcome, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome. Hacking my sewing machine. Best friend, right? Come on in, you guys. Hi, Tracy. Thanks so much for sprinkling this into Craft Around the Clock. And hi, Be So Creative and Laura. Welcome. Hi, Anita. Happy Friday, right? Hi, Shauna. Hi, Pat. If you guys wouldn't mind smashing some of those, I don't know if I can get it to do it this way, hearts. It's like, what is that, right? Yeah, not gonna happen. Hi, Kathleen. It's good to see you. How are you doing? Come on in, you guys. Thanks for the hearts, even though I couldn't get it to work. All right, so today we're gonna be sewing a chicken, hopefully, right? So I had wanted to get this cut out earlier today, but my granddaughter is cutting teeth, and let's just say she would not let me within about 2 feet from her if I'm not carrying her. So it was not a productive day, to say the least. Hi, Mara with Vintage Retail Therapy by Mara. Hi, Joy is Crazy for Crafts. Welcome, you guys. I cannot talk, but come on in. Thank you for showing up, being here. We all appreciate it. All right, so let's get started, because as we know, this always goes by quicker than we think. So I was looking for a pattern. Sorry guys, you probably won't see me most of the time. For a chicken, because I don't have one, on Pinterest, and then I looked on Etsy. At first I was trying to find a free pattern, but everything I found I wasn't that impressed with, so I ended up buying a pattern, which I will show you in just a second. And this is the fabric, one of the fabrics we're going to be using for our chicken. I hope you guys can see okay. If you can't, let me know. Yeah, it's good to see you, Kathleen. It's been a bit. So we're doing the hen. Now this pattern, let me show you guys, has 4 components to it. So it has a rooster, a hen, the little chick, and an egg. So super cute. And it gives you all the patterns for those. And let me tell you, this pattern is by Beige Belle, and I believe it was $8 something. I don't remember the exact cost. Sorry, you guys. So we're gonna do the hen. You know, in a really productive world, I would like to get to the other ones today, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So we're just going to go for the hen. If we can start cutting any of the other ones out, we will. I do want to make them all. I have some cute fabrics for all of them. Let's see if you guys are seeing this. So since my flowers seem to be growing this way, because the ground's here and the flowers growing up, I thought it'd be better if it grows that way on our hen. So you always want to take a peek at your fabric and see which way that is working. If your fabric has a design in it, you want to take that into consideration when you're cutting it out. You know, a lot of them have designs, but they're random, and so you don't have to really worry about it. But this one is a little, you know, more directional, so we want to make sure and go in that direction. Now, would it be awful if you did it the other way? No. So we're just pinning that on. And then we have, this is actually the part where the chicken's gonna set. Oh, thanks so much for the stars. I appreciate that. So we're going to cut that out of the same fabric. I'm going to do the wing out of a different fabric. So we're going to get these two pieces cut out, and then we'll go on to the rest of it. I have not made this before, so here's hoping, right? Ouch. Like I said, I was going to try to do some things on it earlier, but this day did not go in that direction, so we had to just go with it. Babies have a mind of their own. All right, let's go ahead and cut this out. You could cut it out with pinking shears or regular, let's see, scissors, whichever you like. I might just go ahead and cut it out with pinking shears because that just helps keep it from fraying. And when you're dealing with really like silky type materials, you definitely want to use pinking shears. Or a lot of times if what you're making is smaller, it can be a good thing to use your pinking shears so it doesn't fray out on you as bad. There are products called Fray Check and different products that you can use if you're worried about something fraying. Can you guys see this okay? I'm picking it up. I don't know why. Usually I cut it out on the thing. Mat, whatever table that I'm doing it at. Now, it's a little bit harder to go around these curves and things with your pinking shears opposed to just your normal scissors. And if you decided to get this pattern, of course, once you have the download, you can print it out as many times as you want and use it over and over and over again. And if anybody is interested in the link to this pattern, I did already tell you the name of the business, but I can also just give you the link if you're interested in that. So we're through with that fabric. All right, there are those two pieces. I used to keep almost all my fabric scraps, but I had so many bags of scrap fabrics that I was never doing anything with. You know, I would love to use them all to quilt with and do all the things, but never seemed to happen. So this is the fabric I chose for the wing. This is kind of a scrap piece of fabric, so we are using that up. Well, not all of it, but part of it. Of course, if it's a big piece, I obviously keep it, but those smaller pieces, I'm like, I just can't, you know, do that anymore. It's just too much space. And after cleaning out my craft room, I need all the space I can get. So we're just cutting out the wing now. All right, there's our wing. So we're done with that fabric, and now we're going to do the beak. Although I haven't been doing a very good job of picking up my craft room lately, so it is getting a bit cluttered again, unfortunately. Okay, here's our beak. And then, so here's our beak. There's what they call the wattle, and that's the cone. All right. We just need a little tiny piece of this one, obviously. So, happy Friday, you guys. If you're new, be sure and let us know so we can welcome you. My name is Darlia. I'm owner of Darshay Designs. I do live in Colorado. I love to do all types of sewing and crafting. I meant to say crafting, but it came out sewing because, you know, that's what I'm doing right now. You never know what you're going to say when you're live, right? Things just come out. So I'm going to take that little pattern piece off of there and then just cut that where it was folded. Put it back up here and cut off that excess. All right, that is going to be easy to lose. I'm going to set that right there. And I have some red fabric we're going to use for that comb. All the pieces were marked in except the really small ones, so I just went in and marked them myself. So, because I'll just put it, probably all the pattern pieces when I buy it like this and I print it out, probably will go in a Ziploc baggie and then I store them in a tote so that they're all together along with the instructions. It's just an easy way for me to keep it and not hopefully lose it all. Okay, that's cut out. Last piece to cut out. And then we'll start getting busy putting this together. Hopefully. I always say hopefully because, you know, in a perfect world, not even a perfect world, but, you know, if everything goes how it's supposed to, that's what we are planning to do. All right. So I'm setting those over here, getting that fabric out of our way. I shouldn't need those scissors anymore, so we'll get it out of the way. So let me show you the pattern pieces for our rooster real quick so you guys can see what else came. It was the rooster, and then there's its pieces, the wing, the comb, the wattle, and the beak. And there's its bottom parts to set on. And then it has an Easter egg or just an egg. You can make it white. And then the little baby chick just has a beak, a wing, the bottom part and the chick part. And then the hen pattern that we just cut out. So there are all of the pattern pieces. I will definitely need my glasses. Anything up close? Okay, I'm going to see if I can bring you guys hopefully a little closer. Hi Margie, Teresa, how are you? Thanks for hopping on. Let's get our bigger pieces over here. Oh, I don't know, maybe I was supposed to cut out 4 of those. If so, I'll have to go back and cut them out. You can use fleece for this, or whatever kind of fabric you would like. Also, a good fabric to use for the comb in that part of the chicken would be felt. I do have that, but I was going to try to do it out of fabric first and see how that looked. I am reading through the directions really quick. I don't know if you could glue this if you didn't want to sew it. So it looks like we're sewing all our small pieces actually first, of course. So we're going to put our wrong side or right sides together, so that our wrong side will be facing out. Oh, sorry. I bring it closer so you guys can see me, and then I don't have my hands where they need to be. So our wrong sides are facing out. Let me bring our scissors a little closer. We're going to go ahead and pin that. And then we're going to do the same for the comb part, putting our right sides together, wrong sides out. And I was supposed to cut out another set of wings, so we'll have to do that in a minute. Okay, we're going to pin this. We're going to leave the bottom edges of these open so we can put some stuffing in there. Right sides together again. Just going to get a little tricky with our little pieces when we turn them. All right, we've got that together, and we're going to pin that. And so we're just going to sew along the sides. We're not going to worry about the bottom parts on these at all. So we're leaving those open. So I already have white thread in my sewing machine. And we're just going to start on one side. And I'm just going to do a tiny seam allowance on the inside. You guys probably can't see it, of the foot. You know, there's the hole that the needle goes through. I'm just going to go on the outside of that hole. I am going to take my pen out because it's just going to get in my way. Get my petal where I need it, and then I just put my needle down into my fabric to start with. Go very slow to begin with, and especially for something this small, then we're back spacing, and then we're going forward. Just keeping the edge of your fabric on the edge of that little, and then when it goes to your corners, to me, you just put your fabric or your needle down in your fabric, lift your pressure foot, and then kind of rotate. To me, that is the easiest way to do it. And like I said, on these small pieces, slow is definitely, you know, your best option, best bet, because otherwise it's going to go flying and who knows how you'll end up sewing it right. And then I'm just going to lift that up. I have a cutting tool right here. I'm just going to cut that off with it and then trim our threads real quick. A lot of times I wait to trim the threads, but you know, it's actually kind of good if you just do it at the time, because then when you're trying to assemble it, you don't have to worry about all that and they're not going to get in your way. All right, so we have our first little piece done. We'll turn that in a second. Now we're on to this one. Again, I'm leaving that flat side open. I'm sewing up this one edge. I've been sewing since I was around 17, I believe. My mom actually taught me how to sew, and then I took home sewing like in high school. That helped out too. And I have just been sewing through the years. I've sewn many things and lots of different things. Okay. And because we have these little curves to go around, it makes it, you know, a little bit more tricky. But if you take your time, again, it should be fine. I wish I had more time to sew. Sewing for me is like relaxation. But unfortunately, I never seem to have very much time to do it. So we're going down the other side now. We're going to backspace. Lift that up, cut off our thread. Trim off our threads. And we are down to the beak. Oops, that one's not wanting to cut off. You can always make a pattern up if you're, you know, if you're able to do that. I had thought about it, but I just didn't have time. So I'm like, no, not this time. Okay, up to the top and back down. Well, maybe one more stitch before we come back down, just so it gives us that even sewing down both sides. All right, and our last little piece is done. So how many of you guys have sewn with a sewing machine or by hand? You can just say sewing machine or hand, or and what kind of things, if you do so, do you enjoy making? Let me see if I can catch some comments. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Joey's Crazy for Crafts. Welcome, you guys. So how are you doing today? How's the weather where you guys are at? It is in the 80s today in Colorado, which is crazy. I think we are setting a record temp for today. I'm just going to take the end of a paintbrush probably, because these are so small. And I do have tools to help turn things, but I think they're out in my living room where my other sewing machine's at. So we're just gonna try to push this through. And like, it can be a bit difficult when they're so tiny. You have to have a little bit of patience as you work that out. And I will get something else to help make our point a little better there, but that's our start. I started with the tiniest one first, so hopefully it wouldn't frustrate me so much, right? If it wasn't working very well, I would get that one out of the way. Okay, we're getting that comb pushed out. It's easier to see it when it's a little bit bigger, so there's that. And this one isn't much bigger than our beak. A little bit. Okay. Guys can see we have got that pushed out now. So all our pieces are pretty good. Find something a little bit narrower to try to pop that out a little better. So it looks more like a beak. Getting there. You guys can see I'm just trying to gently, slowly push that through, because my goal is not to push it through the fabric. So we have to start again, right? So we're just kind of gently tugging on that. So I think that's pretty good. All right, there's our 3 little pieces. We may have to do some ironing here. We're going to cut out one more set of wings. If I had been thinking at the time, I would have realized each side needs a set of wings, right? So we're going to pin this on real quick, because we need to sew this next. All right, and of course I put away my pinking shears. Grab those. Sometimes it is easier to pick it up and cut it out if it's a smaller piece. Do whatever is easiest for you guys. Sorry if I'm not keeping it in view. I'm trying my best. All right. I think we've got it all now. Okay, we're gonna stuff those really quick. Let's see. It says to fill the comb, probably still need that paintbrush, and the wattle with filler. And you guys can use different things for that, but I am using polyfill, and that's if I make any kind of stuffed toy, animal, that's what I usually am gonna use on it. You could also iron these before you fill them, if you really want to make sure you've got those curves pushed out. Let me check this one just a little bit before we sew it onto our chicken, right? I'm going to add a little bit more. Not much, because I don't think we want it super stuffed. Doesn't say to fill the beak that I see. I think you could put a tiny bit in there if you wanted to. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We just want it to be able to stand up, right? All right, so let's put a little bit in this part. These little pieces are always the hardest once you get those taken care of. Usually the rest is not as difficult. But yeah, stuffing these. Let me try that other. See if this will help get it in there a little bit better. Yeah, that worked much better. Get rid of our paintbrush. And I think that's probably all we're going to need for this. I think that is plenty. Yeah. All right. And I am just going to take a tiny little amount and put in our beak. Even though it doesn't call for it and you probably wouldn't need it necessarily, I think it's just gonna help it, you know, not be all, not hold its shape. Okay. So there we go. We've got all of those done. Now we're gonna work on our wings. Okay, we're putting our wing fabric together. Let's see. Okay. Again, we're putting our right sides together. Pattern is, says things a little different than, you know, what I'm used to seeing in patterns, but that's okay. So we're putting our right sides together. I am gonna pin this a little. So I am gonna put one there, one at the top, and then one over here in the corner. Now on our pattern, it's showing that we're just wanting to leave this tiny little opening from here to here. So if you need a reminder of where to start and stop, you can mark it with a pencil or pen, or you can just stick some needles in there to help remind you that that's what you're gonna do. So now we're gonna sew that wing together. So I'm starting where that first pin is, putting my pressure foot down. Just gonna start off slow and then backspace. And then we're just gonna go around the wing. Again, we're on a curve, so I'm just lifting up that foot, moving it over so that I can go around that curve. Make sure I have enough of a seam on the back that I had them lined up well enough. Oh yeah. So these are rounded curves too. So I need to remember that as I'm doing this. So I just have to kind of start and stop as I'm going around those curves. Taking out the pins when they get in my way. These kind of things are a little bit harder to sew. I mean, curves are, if you haven't done a lot of sewing, I would just suggest you get a practice piece of fabric and fold it in half and cut out something with a bunch of curves in it and just practice. We're at the end, so we're just back stitching and then checking the back to make sure I caught that all in, cutting off that, and then we're going to trim our threads again. So there's our first wing put together. And going to do the same with this one. Wait, I'm putting right sides together. All right, so I'm going to put a couple of pins in here to help hold it together for me. If you guys have any questions, be sure and ask in the comments. I know this may seem complicated. It isn't really once you have some practice and just go slow. Okay, getting my starting and stopping points in there. And I'm going to move that. Well, actually, I'm going to need it here in a minute. Okay. All right, so here we go on our second wing. Hi Cheryl, hi Kathy, hi Mary, how are you guys today? My power tool is a sewing machine for our Fun Friday power tool event, and we are trying to get a chicken together here, a hen. Okay. We're going around those curves again, so on the end of the wing, just trying to make sure I get around them. Okay. And we're almost done with our second wing here. And cutting off the threads, or cutting off the thread and then cutting off the threads. And then we're going to turn these right side out. Where'd my little tool go? And they don't give you a very big opening, so not making it easy on us, are they? A lot of times I can just work it through without a tool by pulling, you know, working your fabric in there and then pulling it through. Okay, I think I've got most of it in there. Oops. The wing is flying away on me. Oh sheesh, you guys, my time is getting close to being out. Here I thought I picked a project that I would easily be able to get done with you guys. It's definitely taken me longer than I thought. But let me get a wing out here and then I'll show you what else we will be doing to this. Okay. I've got to get those little curves out, but so I can show you guys what we're going to be doing. So I will be sewing these little, let's see, it goes like this. So I'll get those curves pushed out. So, and I've got to get this pushed out. So let me show you guys. What I'll do after I get those pushed out is sew those little lines in the wing on each side. So I'm going to sew that on. And then we're going to attach our wings to our little chicken here, our little hen. So it's going to go on here like this, and we'll have those lines sewn in it. And we're going to add this to the top. And then we're going to add its little beak on, and then its little wattle down here. Seems kind of big. And we will be doing the same kind of sewing lines on the end of our hen. I will leave an opening at the bottom. After I pin all of these, I'll actually be pinning them in like this, because when I sew with the other piece of fabric on top of this, once I turn it, then all of these will pop out like that. So they'll be the right way. And this bottom of the chicken also has this piece so that it will set up. So there's not a lot left to do. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it just, you know, all these little pieces take a little bit more time. But I think it's going to be super cute. And I am definitely going to show you guys. I'll take a picture of our little hen. And I'm going to try to get the rooster and the chick and the egg made. And I will show you guys all of that too. Maybe we'll do a part 2 and we'll work on one of the other pieces. But I'm going to go ahead and get this one together so I can just show you the final product. But I hope you guys liked that. Hopefully I gave you a few tips maybe that you didn't know. Excuse me, you guys. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you all have a great rest of your fun Friday and Craft Around the Clock. If you're already in the group, just slide it down from the top to bottom and refresh it, and you'll see the next creator coming up. If you're not, that link is up in my description. Sorry, guys. Oh, sheesh. All right. P+. I'm getting threads in my throat or something. Who knows? All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Have a blessed weekend. Stay tuned for pics of this little hen. And we'll be doing the rooster, the chick, and the egg soon. All right, you guys. Thanks so much. Bye for now.